What am I doing to market my business?
Welcome to Success Unleashed, Beyond the Job Site, the only podcast created to help contractors win in business and in life. And now your host, Garrett Bake.
Welcome back to another episode of the Success Unleashed podcast. I want to tell you a little story about a trip I took this last week. I went out to Los Angeles, California. Now, I don't know how you feel about Los Angeles. Personally, I'm okay if California falls in the ocean. Sorry for you people who live in California. You know what I'm talking about. There's a lot of good people there, but the politics, not a fan. This conversation is not about politics, though. I took this trip to California with a friend and partner of mine, Justin, and we went out there to record some content for some of the stuff we're working on behind the scenes. And when I arrived, if you've ever flown into LAX, you know that LAX is busy as hell. I think they have like 7 or 8 different terminals. It's in a U shape. I mean, there are people literally everywhere. And it was organized or in sometimes disorganized chaos. So we finally get to where we needed to get to, which was the Uber spot. Well, Uber isn't at the airport, it's offsite. So you have to take a shuttle to the Uber spot, get the Uber, and then go from there. We were headed to the Hollywood area. So we start driving down the Hollywood area. And as we're driving, of course, at this time, it's late afternoon. There's nothing but cars on the freeway. And these are like 6, 7, 8 lane freeways, right? Nothing but cars, people everywhere. And we were, engaged in small talk, catching up on some things and whatnot. And I kind of got lost in thought for a minute. And I'm looking out the window at these cars that are stuck in traffic, some of them, and some of them passing by, some of them were passing, but just cars full of people. And I had this thought that crossed my mind. I said, how many people are there in the US? And so I Googled it. There's 333 million people in the United States. And I said, how many people are there in California? There's almost 39 million people in California. How many people are in Los Angeles? There's 3.8, almost 3.9 million people living in Los Angeles. And then I asked the best question I've ever asked myself, okay, maybe in the last year. And this was the question: how many of the 3.9 million people that are within a 20 to 30 mile radius of where I'm at know who I am? How many? And the God's honest truth is I'd be lucky if there were 10. 10 people in a population center of almost 4 million, in a state of almost 40 million, in a country of 333 million. Think about that for a minute, right? You're a contractor. You could be in a small town. You couldn't be in a big town. You could be in a medium-sized town. You could be living in a metropolitan area. Doesn't matter. But think about it. How many people in that area know who you are? How many people know what you do? How many people have you had a conversation with? How many people have had a conversation with somebody who you have done work with, or have seen a banner or a Facebook post or your truck, right? And when you start to think about the grand scale of things, you realize how few people know who you are. And it's so interesting when you start thinking about things this way. In my phone, I have almost 1,700 contacts, 1,698. That's 1,698 people that I have their phone number. How many people have my phone number? I don't know. Let's say maybe 2,500. Of the 2,500 people that have my phone number, how many of them know what I do? I would venture to say less than 10%. That's 250 people. What I'm telling you is something that you should be paying attention to. You're so concerned about what Johnny, who you went to high school with, thinks about you that you won't post it on social media. You're so concerned about what your grandmother's aunt's dog's cousin's niece might say about your truck and your logo and your business card, and you handed it out, and you're one of those guys that tries to talk to everybody. You're so concerned about what they might say that you don't do the thing that you need to do. Here's the craziest part. The craziest part is when you're growing a business is your job is to get more people to say no to you. Because if they've said no to you, that means that you've had the opportunity to have a conversation with them, to show them who you are and what you do, and to offer them a product or service, and they've said no. Think about that. How many people, we're middle of the year, right? How many people in the last 6 months have told you no? No. First of all, if you don't know this number, shame on you. You should be tracking it. But how many people have told you no, right? Can you go back and say how many people, right? So let's just say you average 3 to 5 jobs a week, right? 3 to 5 jobs a week. You probably close at 30% if you're lucky, 20%, right? So now we're looking at, let's say on the high end, 20 jobs a month, right? And if you close 20%, so 100 people, and that's pushing it, right? So 100 people have had contact with you, know who you are, and you've been able to offer a product or service. 100 people a month. That's 600 people for half a year. If you continue the same trend, that's 1,200 people in a year. 1,200 people, okay? Let's just say you live in the Los Angeles area. There's 4 million people in Los Angeles. 1,200 people said no to you. 1,200, right? Or I should say 1,200 know who you are, right? You've had a conversation with those. You've closed 20% of that. 1,200, okay? So over a 10-year period, that's 10,000, okay? 20-year period, that's 20,000. It's very likely you will not have your contracting business for over 20 years. So in 20 years, you're going to contact 20,000 people in a population area of 4 million people. Think about that for a second. Your business isn't growing because you're not willing to have more conversations with more people, because you're afraid of them saying no, because you're afraid of what they might think about your colors or your logo or the jeans that you're wearing or the truck that you're driving or the fact that you don't have a degree or insert the excuse. I'm telling you this because I want you to see the opportunity that's actually in front of you. If you don't believe me, this will blow your mind. The next time you're driving to a job site, try and count all the cars on the roadway. Just try and count them. And from one location to another, it's going to be hundreds. If you get into the thousands, well, good for you be able to count that high. Hundreds, even thousands of people. And how many of those people paid attention to you? Why am I telling you this? Not because I want you to move to Los Angeles if you don't live there. That's not what this is about. I'm telling you this because I want you to start thinking bigger. 333 million people in the US, right? Did you know that right now there's a $3.6 million or 3.6 million unit housing shortage, meaning that we're short almost 4 million housing units in the United States. Don't tell me that there's no opportunity for you. I'm currently in the process of attempting to buy a home. And I say attempting because if I had any more hair, I'd pull it out. It's nothing short of a train wreck with interest rates and fees and, what's available on the market. We could just go on down that rabbit hole. I tell you this because there's a shortage of great homes out there. There's a shortage of great contractors out there. There's a shortage of a lot of things, but what there's not a shortage of is opportunity. There's not a shortage of opportunity. So I want you to start thinking right now, what am I doing to market my business? Some of you guys think I need to dump money in Facebook ads. If that's you, I'll caution you, don't do it if you don't know what you're doing. But if that's you, go for it, right? Some of you like the monthly mailers. Awesome. Some of you like to do postcards. Great. Some of you like to knock doors. Thumbs up. Whatever the thing is, what are you doing right now to market? And are you getting in front of enough people to generate enough business to create the lifestyle that you want? And if the answer is no, don't look at me. Don't look at your spouse. Turn off the TV and go figure out what you got to do to make that happen. It's time for you to stop making the excuse of not enough people know who I am. I'm not big enough. You're not big enough because you're not willing to put in the effort. That's what it comes down to. Think about it. here's an easy way for you, right? If you were to back things up and say, how much money do I want to generate in a year, right? Now, I'm not going to go into profit margins and job costing, and that's not what this conversation is about. This very high level conversation. I want to generate $5 million a year, okay? That's where I want to be. $5 million a year, I'll be comfortable. Let's just say roughly your margins are 20%. That means your take home is $1 million a year, right? Trust me, you do pretty well for yourself taking home $1 million a year, okay? So if that's the case, and I'm going to break out my handy dandy calculator here because me and math, we're not best friends. So $5 million a year, right? What is your average job worth? Now, for you guys who are, handymen and you're charging $500, it's going to take some work, my friend. It's going to involve you and some other folks. You can get there. It's going to involve you and some other folks though. But let's say your average job is $2,500, right? So if we take $5 million and we divide it by 2,500, that means in 1 year, you need to do 2,000 jobs, right? Now, let's break this down, right? Let's say there's 52 weeks in a year, right? So you need to be doing almost 39 jobs a week. Now, is that doable? Probably not where you're at, and that's okay. But if you want to get to that point, that's how many jobs you have to be doing. So again, let's say your close rate is 20%. That means you need to be presenting to, pitching, showing, whatever you want to call it, estimating 200 or over 200 jobs or potential jobs a month. Take the guesswork out of it, right? We just did. Showed you behind the curtain. You want to build a business that can generate $5 million a year. Your product or service is $2,500. You're going to need to generate 40 jobs a week, right? So start thinking this way. Big picture. I need to be estimating or presenting proposals or bidding 200 jobs a week to land 40. 40 at 2,500 will get me to 5 million, right? Now, don't get overwhelmed because we can easily do this with 500,000, right? So 500,000 divided by 2,500, that's 200 jobs divided by 52 weeks. That's just shy of 4. And if it's you can handle 4 jobs at 2,500 a week, bro, there it is. There's your game plan, right? Get consistent and then you can start adding people, right? But the point is, and I don't want to distract from this. The point is that in order for you to grow your business, more people need to know who you are and what you do. There's free ways to do that. There's paid ways to do that. Regardless of what you choose to do it. Find a way to get more people to know who you are. Get more people to like you. Get more people to trust you. You'll close more jobs. You'll make more money. All right, that's all I got for you. You know what time it is. It's time for you to get after it. 3, 2, 1, off you go. Thanks for listening to the Success Unleashed podcast. Before we go, show some love for your favorite podcast by liking, subscribing, and leaving us a review. Until we see you again, it's time to get after it. 3, 2, 1, off you go.